A lot of my friends do say things to me like, oh, must be so cool. Like you just tell people what to do and you just don't have to do anything. And I'm like, I haven't slept in 9 years.
To summarize in a few sentences what you do and what your company does.
I have a startup called Astronautics, and we build high performance power systems for small satellites.
I do digital illustrations mainly, but I also do painting.
I'm a full-time visual storyteller.
We use data that companies already have to provide insights and coaching to help people create happier and higher performing teams.
So Nevertheless is a mental health, self-love small business. We have apparel.
I am the Chief Cookie Officer of Moustache Milk and Cookie Bar. And Moustache basically does milk and cookies. That's it. It's so simple.
I do a whole program of life coaching with X-abilities, and through that I teach people what they're about their sensory needs and the senses. Like pretty much how I've learned how to control my autism is how I teach people about emotional intelligence.
I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was really jealous of people who did.
When I was younger, I wanted to be a boss. My mum was a boss. She had her own business and she was a Pacific Māori woman. It was very rare to see. I don't know what I wanted to be a boss of. I just knew that I wanted to be a boss.
My story kind of goes all the way back to when I was a little kid. So I come from a solo mother family of 3 children. And because of that, money was pretty hard to come by. So mum wouldn't really buy us like treats or toys, or we didn't have anything extravagant growing up. But mum, one thing that she did for us was she would always bake. Like she literally woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning to bake for us. And in Asian families, well, a lot of Asian families, not all of them, but my one, you often don't actually say, I love you, but we show love through food. And I remember when I was like 8 years old, I literally wrote on like this little bucket list. Number 1 was, I want to open my own cookie shop one day. However, number 2 was, I want to own a racing car bed.
I always wanted to do something in art, but my mom like always told me that like apparently when I was like 7 or something, I like sat her down and I told her like, you can't like fight my dream. I need to be an artist. Like whatever you do, don't stop me.
It was so weird. It wasn't even planned. Actually, I dragged a large group of my friends to this competition that Auckland Uni was hosting called the Auckland Program for Space Systems. And so there at the competition, the point of the competition was to find a way to benefit humanity from space using a 1U satellite. By the time we were done with that competition, we'd completely like missed the mark. Like there's no way that a power system could benefit humanity, and that's like quite a stretch. So we kind of left and then we started going down the business route. We're like, there's so many opportunities for what we're trying to do, and this is a real problem. So that was kind of the beginning of our journey. At first it was like a side uni project that was really fun and really exciting, and it kind of just slowly took over our lives.
There was a good couple years where I was like, okay, cool. Well, what is the point of life? Like, what is my goal here? And where I landed was that I wanted to contribute in a positive way, like to leave things better than I found them somehow. I would say since then, it's just been a process of experimentation to say, okay, well, can I contribute in this way? Or maybe this is the thing where I can best contribute. And then it's been through that experimentation and ruling things out that I've landed where I am now.
Alongside doing all the sciences at high school, I started doing photography as a way of me expressing my emotions and feelings. I really struggled to ever do like journaling or anything like that. So I did self-portraiture and a lot more of the fine art style photography. I gave myself a year to do photography as a full-time job, and if it failed, I would go back to university with my tail between my legs being like, okay, everyone, you were right, I was wrong.
I went to university and I studied to be a journalist actually, because at the time I wanted to tell stories, different stories from different backgrounds. But I kind of guess when I got into the world, it was a very tough dog eat dog world. And we're moving house at that time, and I saw this list and it said open a cookie shop, and I never thought about that ever since I was a little girl. And I thought, I'm just gonna do this.
It was like my second to last year of my BFA, and I realized that I have literally nothing to archive my work. Like, I'd be doing works, but I'd never show it to anyone except for my tutors or people that are in my group at uni. And I just mainly wanted to use it to document everything. I didn't really care about if I had any likes or anything. I just wanted to make sure that when I do like work on my craft, I can see where I started and then work my way forward. Did t-shirts, did custom t-shirts from like DMs on Instagram, and that's how it came to be, really. And then it got to the point where, yeah, I definitely was considering it, like I could actually do this as a business.
We watched Dawn Raids, that movie, and we're like, oh, people are just making things out of what they can and just doing what they can to make a living and stuff.
Let's find a font. Let's buy the font.
Yeah, we bought the font, so we own this.
We own the font.
Yeah, and then what do we do next?
My sister does like videography. I said, can I have your Adobe Illustrator login? Just logged in, did a design, put it on a t-shirt, and we just used our friends and family as models. And it was kind of it was an unintentional business thing, because, you know, then we used them and then we asked them for their thoughts on mental health, and then it tagged into their audiences. And so, but it was also nice to hear their thoughts about mental health, because, you know, we're Māori Pacifica, no one really asks you that. It's not really a priority. But for us, it was really important to hear that what we're doing does have worth, especially to our own people.
I was just like, yeah, she's dyslexic, but she also has an IQ of 140. And I was just like, how does that make sense? And so like I felt like a superhero, because like we're just always trying to figure out why is my child different? Why is she normal, kind of thing. So I was in Starship Hospital for trying to end everything. And then it's when X-Men played on the TV. That was my first time watching X-Men. And I was just watching it, and I was like, oh my God, these people with, like, I didn't know I had autism at this stage either. And I was like, these people with autism, Down syndrome, any invisible disability, any physical disabilities. They literally say all these things that indicate like just how a world is, and how we're gonna hide ourselves and everything like that, and how amazing these people are, but they're being thrown into the too hard basket, so they just live their whole life feeling guilty if they do anything. And I was going through my life feeling guilty if I did anything too. And then so then I was like, whoa, I'm in love with X-Men, and it gave me that hope to like get out of hospital. I was like, man, I've got to do something with this, like, and then restarted my images. I pretty much had no idea what I was doing. But I just knew I had to do it. I just knew that it was the right thing to do. I have all these ideas of different training, like I call it emotional intelligence training, of universal design, how we can live a better life. I have all the actions planned with my company now.
It's kind of like, I think the problem when people say that they want to start something and then they don't really start on it is because they're thinking about it way ahead. For me, I lured into it. Like everything I'm doing now happened from one little action that I did before, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna start this. Like I'm doing a lot of freelance illustrations and different commissions now. I didn't think I was gonna do that. I just happened to have a project that someone contacted me and they said, look, I want you to do a commission for this. I was like, yeah, okay, I have free time.
It's probably worth saying that Multitudes was probably, I don't know, the 6th, the 7th thing that I like played with starting.
With all of my dreams and ideas and plans, I always have multiple backups. Mm-hmm. It felt like I was just taking a break from dream A to try dream B and see if that worked.
No, I definitely felt confused by all the possibilities, and I knew though that it's what I call analysis paralysis, right? I wanted to be a journalist. I did that first. I went into the journalist world. I did realize that I wasn't passionate about it actually in reality. Secondly, I was quite passionate about juice at the time. So during university, I actually had a juice bar in the La Cigar French markets in Parnell. I was like, I love this, it's cool, but I think I want to try moustache. And then I did do it, and then I kind of ran with it, and it's been 9 years, and the rest is history, right?
Yeah.
So instead of seeing all the opportunities and just like getting paralyzed by it, for me it was like, okay, these are the 3 options or 5 options, whatever. Tick them off. Go with the one that your heart is most leaning towards. Start with that, and then don't stress out if it doesn't work out, because just go to the next one and you'll figure it out.
I didn't pay myself at all in 2020. I was working 3 days a week with my consulting work, so the Ally Skills and Zed work, and I was earning money, and then I was turning around, and the other three more days a week when I was working on Multitudes was then taking that money and paying it out entirely to other people. There is that privilege piece of me. So for example, I knew that, let's say it just, like, I put my money into a thing and it went horribly, I knew I would have couches to sleep on and people who would help me out. And if we had like a UBI, there'd be a lot more amazing people starting businesses too.
Yeah, in 2018, I did a little bit of a part-time work to supplement like the transition, where I was doing as a photo booth operator for a company. I worked at the Parnell French markets selling muesli for a company for a while, which was like just like having a base income. I photographed suits for 4 days a week for like 3 months. I am just me. I don't have to worry about anyone else. I don't have any dependent children. I don't have a dependent spouse. I'm able to live in a flatting situation. That made the choice so much easier, because I knew that my cost of living is so low compared to other people's. And that is a massive privilege.
So Experience has a clothing line. I'm an acrylic artist and I sell posters, and I'm also an author, and I sell my books, and also been getting more into film and learning about that type of world. So I'm pretty much going to sell as much as I can of the assets of myself in a business wise, and that will all go towards the creation of the academy.
No, but we did a startup business course called Start and Scale, which was sponsored.
Well, my mum paid for it.
Yeah.
She kind of felt sorry for us.
She was like, do this.
Yeah, we're asking too many questions, and she was just like, look, we really backed ourselves, and once we saw the money out of our account and into the business account, we're like, oh, we've got no choice. We just have to go on out.
Yeah.
So financially, I did go to the banks, but there was no way at that time I was going to get any lending. I was, 19, 20 years at the time. Too young and had no experience, so there was no way I was going to get any backing, and I didn't think I wouldn't be able to get any investors. I mean, even my friends didn't believe in my idea, so why would investors, So for me, my only option was to put hard work into it, and that's why I took up the 3 jobs to raise capital. And I'm very blessed, because ever since then, Moustache has just been running off its own capital as opposed to borrowing, and I own 100% of the business.
I mainly only look up to people who are my age, or who are my friends, or who are in my life. It's hard to idolize someone that you don't know the full angle of.
I didn't really have role models. I don't think I've seen another Polynesian aerospace engineer. I don't think I've seen another Polynesian deep tech CEO. Even when I went to uni and I started doing physics, it wasn't until like my second year that I realized there was not a large tutoring physics group for Polynesians. And then I realized, oh wait, I'm the only one here.
Most of my biggest role models are not in the tech space. In terms of, for example, who Elon Musk is and how he engages with the world, I have no desire to be that or to be like him. And I could say the same for many of the big tech icons that are out there. I find myself looking to people that I know. So, for example, this friend in the States that I've met with regularly for a while, super aligned, super committed to his values. I see him making those types of trade-offs. I think there's a really key question of, like, for example, what customers will you say no to, or what investors will you say no to? Like, if it's actually going to be values first and foremost, it means that there will be times when you have to say no to money because it's not in alignment with your values. And so I think people who are willing to do that, then it's a real example that you're standing up to those values. But we often don't see that in the business world. We often see people just saying yes to the money.
So everything comes back to my mum. It was because she came from Singapore when it was a third world country. And I think anything that I'm doing, like, you know, what my mum's been through is so much more than that. And I will never quite understand how she came to be the person she is. And so my mum is my daily inspiration.
My mum's a big role model. She's a huge role model for me. She started her business, private tertiary education, over 20 years ago. She raised all three of us in her office. And I think there are companies like, small businesses like Waiapu Road. Waiapu Road focuses on Indigenous jewellery and apparel. Anything Indigenous is pretty cool. She's Not Your Rehab is a favourite of ours. They focus on they're against violence against women.
My mum, my nana, my grandmas, I have all my family that I love. So my son is the man. But and then I have the Marvel universe that I love.
And I'd ask people like, why would you want to start a startup? They're like, oh, I hate working 9 to 5s. And I'm just like, you're gonna be working from like 9 to 9. Are you kidding? Screw 9 to 5 is a dream once you start after a while. There's like, I mean, it is very like a high risk, high reward, but then I think people forget about the high risk aspect, and that's like, I don't have like a team of 100. Like, it's on me and my other 2 co-founders. Like, if like, we need to pull through, and it's on us to make that happen. And we feel a lot of pressure to meet external deadlines, and we make sure we make those external deadlines so that we can stay alive. And it takes so much work to keep the momentum and to keep things going. And we're not just like doing our, like, I'm a physicist, and so like I am worried about like the tech side, but I'm not just worried about the job that I have to do during the day at my team. It's also like, okay, I'm gonna make sure the funding never runs out. I'm gonna make sure that my team stays like healthy and mentally safe, and we don't have HR. I'm HR. If they have a problem with me, they can't go and tell someone. They've got to tell me. Like, it is literally only 3 of us in our company.
Even with Massage, a lot of people say we were overnight success without realizing, you know, in the 3rd year, I actually decided we had to shut down that first store, and I had to start from scratch, and that's how we got the cookie bus, and I had to really rebuild from the ashes. And so there's a lot of struggles that people don't see. And the late nights and the tears and everything, they just see the end result. So yeah, it is definitely glamorized, but most of the time I'm just like in my sweatpants, and like I'm like don't have an office, and I'm, you know, just in bed like doing work to the wee hours of the morning. Everybody's always asking me like, Jenna, like, what's the system, what's the protocol, where's the rule book, where's, you know, the manager's bible and things like that. And this has all happened in the last 6 months that we've grown. And I'm like, I don't know, like, you tell me, like, what is the system, what's the protocol? I'm just like on Google, like, what is the protocol?
I feel like people take me more seriously the older I get. Being a young woman photographer has been really hard. Even now, I still get people asking me when I'm photographing an event if I'm there for a school project, and they mean high school project. But I'm lucky that as I've moved away from weddings and stuff, I deal with a lot less sexism, verbal sexual abuse, stuff like that is a lot less now that I get to choose exactly the people that I'm around in the working day.
In my school, even though I enjoyed it, I have no idea how to actually function as a full-time creative. It was mainly, you know, work on your craft, we'll talk about your art itself, but not how to utilize it, not how to bring it open to new people, bringing it to galleries, taxes, budgeting. Never learned any of that in school. So it's mainly just learning as I go. I think with any creative or anyone who's doing anything by themselves, you just like when you've solved one problem, an extra 3 will come. Like you'll just keep going and going and going. So
If people are familiar with like the ideation process, like, so, you know, how do you brainstorm things and then turn it into a thing? The beginning step of that is really messy. And I am someone, I mean, the Western world encourages us to like have a plan and have a structure, know what we're doing. And I don't think at the founding stage, like at the beginning, when it's just an idea, I don't think there's any way anyone can know what they're doing. And even if you think you know what you're doing, you're probably wrong because you're going to learn stuff along the way that'll make it change. That was really hard. Raising investment was really hard. It's the most rejected I've ever been in my life. And I can say that with a smile now because I've gotten lots of support, but at the time I was saying it with tears. I can see my own growth, and I think I find that really comforting. It definitely feels overwhelming sometimes still. And there definitely, you know, I wish I like always slept great, and there's definitely times when I don't sleep great because I'm stressing about something.
I don't feel like I have enough to offer in this field. I'm learning so much every day and I love that, but it's very difficult, and there's always times where I feel like I don't have enough and I don't know enough, and I don't know, I'm not a businesswoman actually. I should be an engineer, or I need to go to school, I need to go to business school. Or I need to just stay on Google and search up all these terms because I don't know about it. I don't know enough. And then I don't know what I don't know. So I'm like, I don't know.
I'm brown, so I'm not even going to go for a scholarship because Balang is going for it and I'm not going to get it. Or I'm not even going to, you know, put my application for this house in this area because I'm a different colour. And I think as when you start a business, it's like starting the haka. If you got to go full out of that, you don't start and then stop and then start and then stop. Like once you start, you start. But it doesn't mean you have to start and like be in everyone's face about it. I think that's why, nevertheless, I always remind and even myself, when we have those moments of feeling inadequate, you know, this is why we started nevertheless. Like this is why it requires a mirror, because, you know, people traditionally had role models that they looked up to. But those people didn't go through everything they went through. The only person that you really can, you know, look up to is yourself. And if you can find a space within yourself and create a space where you feel not necessarily confident, but you validate yourself, like that, I think that's when the change happens.
Yeah. When I feel good and badass, I like wear a lot of like silky clothes. I will go full glam. I wear my heels. That makes me feel badass. With my art, I can say when I do this big project or when I've done this one drawing that I've been like working on for ages, getting that done, I'm like, oh my God, that looks so good. Yes.
When we get to prove people wrong, that feels great too. Cool, like we are doing something that we absolutely love. Like we get to say we're aerospace engineers. That is really cool.
So I've had a few moments where I'm like, go me. And it's the days where just thorny things come up. This past week where I had to have some tough conversations and then make decisions on some things, and I just felt like I was in the zone, and like I had the chat that went great and it went well, we knew what we needed to do.
I've recently, in the last year, stopped feeling FOMO. I don't know, it feels great to be at a point in my life where it doesn't matter as much. That makes me feel badass.
Maybe when you like succeed and people like told you at the start you couldn't do it, and you're like, look at me now. Not that that's happened yet, but
I think what makes me feel like a badass is knowing that I had a dream that was so left of field and nobody actually understood it at the time, like not even my own family. And knowing that just I backed myself.
If you take everything you do to like even doing the dishes, that you're like saving the world. Like you live every day like you're saving the world, and everything you do is badass. So like you just like walk through anything, like you walk through the supermarket with your head high, you're like, yeah, this is badass. Right, I'm gonna change my son's diaper, that's badass.